Hey there. The weather's so cold. It's like going down to the 40s at night. I was ready for chilly. I wasn't ready for that chilly. Brr, but I love it. I really do. I love it. It's like so invigorating. I'm going to come out. I'm determined to come out on the porch and do all my morning stuff with a hot cup of green tea until it just gets unbearable. But I'm also trying to talk my roommate. We're getting a third roommate. We have a boy moving in. I'm actually really excited to meet him. He's coming from Sarasota, Florida. He sounds super cool. So he's moving in October, and trying to convince the both of them to go in on a fire pit for out here. I would love to get a fire going, like real wood fire. I love the smell. And kind of chilling in the morning. So yeah, I have visions of that in my head. But I've been thinking, dating. I used to say that dating in your 40s was nuts. And I'm talking to, because I work with people of all ages. And then my roommate is 24 today. Today's her birthday. So she's the same. I'm living with someone who's basically a little bit older than my oldest daughter, but I've been like this since I've been young. Age really is just a number. I never go by that. I'm not hopped up on someone's age. I can get along with everybody. Honestly, living with this young girl, normally I would take on a mother role. And we've become friends, and she's really sweet and endearing, and we get along well, and she loves yoga, and I used to work for Gaia Herbs, and we have a lot in common, and we both love to hike, and she's just a really great person. And I'm just so glad that we connected and this worked out, because, I really like her a lot, and I love the house. And I think we both decided, I say these things and women get so mad. I really don't care. 3 women would have just been too much. And I'm glad I have a roommate that agreed with me. I just think I foresaw problems. I don't know why. And we both wanted a guy. And originally Michael was in here. And when I moved in, I'd never met him. He travels. He owns his own travel company. So I met him when he moved out. I was here 3 months, and he decided he wasn't coming back from the West Coast where his girlfriend lives in South Dakota. They were doing RV life all summer. So he came, and I met him as he was packing up his stuff. And, I'm glad that my roommate and I both agreed that we both wanted a guy, a little bit of testosterone. And again, this guy seems super cool. He's into homesteading, all that cool stuff, super active and fit, loves to work out, loves to hike, loves the outdoors. So I can't wait to meet him. But anyway, so talking to my roommate about dating in her 20s, and then talking to other young girls that I've met in their 30s, and then I've spoken to women in their 50s and 60s, and it just seems like we can't even say like, oh, dating in your 40s is so crazy, because I feel like it's spanning generations, and I think it's the consciousness and the mindset, like how prevalent ghosting is. But the other thing that I've noticed, and why I hopped off of online dating years ago, well, I guess I did it I think I was on online dating in 2023 briefly at one point. I feel like I wasn't, but I don't know. That's like all a blur. I don't think I was. And I think I'd stopped in 2022. Was like my last valiant effort in meeting a decent human being. Like, I just want to find somebody who provides value. Just provide value. Just have a high level of value. Like, what are you bringing to the table? Because I know what I'm bringing to the table. What are you bringing to the table? And a guy should feel the same way about, a woman, if you're like seriously dating, to find an actual person that you could settle down with. But what I've noticed was the amount of inauthenticity. So what's happening is we're all feeling duped. And again, this isn't me speaking to women about dating. This is for men and women. I think we're all going through it, where a person projects them being one way, and then you get to know them and you feel duped because they're not who they projected. Like the initial impression, and this can go on for a while. We all want to put our best foot forward. I've had so many friends tell me that I'm too direct, I'm too upfront. No, I disagree. One of my friends who says that is with a guy that is steeped in addiction. She wound up having a baby with him. She's not super happy. Her needs are not getting met. Her baby's needs are not getting met. All because she just wasn't very honest and upfront. Oh, men don't like to be pressured. Men don't want to be pushed into anything. You're not pushing anyone into anything by saying, this is what I'm looking for. You're being freaking honest. Why are we so afraid of honesty? Why do we run from authenticity? Why do we run from the people who are like, this is what I'm looking for. This is what I want. It's all about value. Everything is about what you value. If you value polygamy, casual relationships, then go find that. It's out there. Go find that. Do you? But there's nothing wrong with putting on your profile or sitting across from somebody and saying, I'm looking for marriage. I'm looking for a partnership. I'm looking to seriously date. There's nothing wrong with saying, I don't know what I want, but be very clear with the other person about that. Meaning, if that person is saying to you, I want a relationship, and you're saying to them, I don't know what I want. And this is very much the fault of the other person as well. You're both in the wrong. This is just my opinion, but you're both in the wrong. If you know that person wants a relationship and you're moving forward with them, you know you're going to hurt them. And that's on the other person too. Because the other person's just hearing what they want to hear and hoping that they'll change your mind. And it doesn't work that way. But we have such a responsibility as human beings to tend to other people's feelings as well as our own. How have we forgotten that along the way? How has this gotten lost in translation? I don't know. Where are our morals and our ethics? If you are someone who doesn't know what you want, and somebody is saying to you, I want commitment, and they move forward with you, don't do it. Don't let it happen. Be the bigger person to say, and I will say, I have found this mostly with women who want commitment and they move forward with a guy who's very clear that he's not sure, and then they want to change their mind. And it just doesn't work that way. And again, that is very much on the woman, but you have a moral, ethical obligation as the guy. And I know this can be reversed, but I'm speaking in this way because I am, because I've done it. I've been the girl, the woman who's going to change his mind. Because I think, I bring so much to the table and I think we're a great match and I think this could really work. Younger Carrie. And I think we all do that, But I would be, very clear. Like, no, I'm not going to move forward with you because I really don't know what I want. You're telling me that you want a relationship and it's not going to happen. I also think that the thing that keeps people in a long-term monogamous commitment, besides all the things that we know, shared values is huge. This is something that I did not think of or pay attention to when I married. I was very young. I was 23 years old. I didn't want to get married. This is not a secret to my children. It wasn't a secret to his family or him or my family. I didn't want to get married. I did something to please other people. And that is a big decision to make, just to please other people. And that is something that if I could turn back time and do it over, I would do it over. But, no, I wouldn't. Because if I did it over, I wouldn't have had Sarah. Because we probably wouldn't have stayed together. Because he was very hell-bent on getting married. But I just did not want to get married because I was pregnant. And I promised myself when I was a young girl that I would not do that. And again, I did it anyway. And I did it for a very specific reason that will probably never make sense to anybody but me. But my mother had been through so much, and she didn't love my ex-husband. My parents knew it was not a good situation, but they were so old school, and it was like, you're pregnant, you get married. The very Irish Catholic thing. And I knew, even though my parents said, if you don't want to marry him, Carrie, don't marry him, because they had been through it with 2 of my sisters. Well, my one sister and then my other sister wound up, we all basically got pregnant before marriage. This is really airing out my family's dirty laundry. But at the end of the day, I mean, things do run in cycles. And it's one thing that I've kind of tried to like drive home. If there's a part of me that wishes it happened differently, just for the sake of my children, that they, were given this really beautiful love story of their mom and dad, but it's not the reality. And I wasn't going to pretend like it was something that it wasn't when they were old enough to start asking questions. So, we didn't have shared values. We were not on the same page. And by the time we found that out, it was just way too late. And that is another big reason why the marriage didn't work. But beyond shared values, I'm really big into friendship and really getting to know somebody and becoming friends first. And I think a lot of women feel like men use that as an excuse. And I can see that because it's happened to me, like, let's just be friends. And really they just, and I was very direct. This is what I want. This is what I'm looking for. And they weren't being as truthful and honest, because sometimes I think people just tell the other person what they want to hear. And this is really detrimental. And the level of inauthenticity and the manipulation, it's just not good. It's not healthy for anybody. And so I've had, people say, I'm really seeking friendship first. And I feel like when I'm saying that, people think that I'm inauthentic. And I can understand that. But if that's something that you really desire, and taking it slow and, having friendship first, there's a lot of longevity in that in the long term. I think it's a really healthy, smart thing to do. There's a very famous therapist, Dr. Laura, I think. She's hardcore. She can come off quite harsh. But I loved the one episode that I listened to of her, and this was years ago. I was still in New Jersey, and she said it takes 4 seasons to really get to know somebody. It takes a year. Now, that's not tried and true for every situation. I know a couple who had a one-night stand and wound up getting married and having kids, and they're still together to this day. And it was only going to be a one-night stand. They met at Hawks and Heifers in New York City, and there was something about her, and her name was Carrie too, I believe, because it was a guy I dated like 13 years ago, right after I got divorced. It was one of his friends. So I knew the guy, better than the girl, but I believe her name was Carrie. And he just felt a really strong pull towards her. And after the one night stand, he couldn't get her out of his mind. And he was like, I want to date you. So you can't never say never. I heard another therapist, a male therapist, tell a story about how he would coach, he was getting, I think he did marriage counseling, like family and marriage counseling and couples counseling. And so him of all people, he would always say to people, you have to give it a year, give it a year, and then decide if you want to get married. And he met his wife, and they knew day one, he said. They had discussed it date one. Like, there's something incredible here. And they still committed to dating for a year before he put a ring on her finger. But he said they knew right away. So I'm not saying that never happens, because it's possible. I never thought I would want to get married again, ever. And it wasn't so much because I was this angry, bitter ex-wife, which I was. I mean, I fully admit it. I was. And, to be honest with you, I had a lot of reasons to be. Because I wasn't dealing with a completely normal personality. But another part of it was just like, I never want to go through that again. Self-protection, was more of the reason. And wanting to protect my girls from ever getting hurt again. I dated very quickly after my divorce because I didn't know how to be alone. I always had a boyfriend since the time I was 13. I just had no sense of self. And I grew up in a really codependent household. And so I just didn't, and I don't really blame my parents for that because that was just the times. Everybody was getting married at 17, 18, banging out kids, and most of them were extremely codependent. A lot of times we recreate our family dynamic. That's why I love family systems and family therapy so much. It's so fascinating. But I never thought I wanted to get married again. I dated right away. And then I knew very quickly, and it was the hardest thing that I've ever had to do because I love having a partner in my life. I love having someone in my life. I really do. People don't believe me because I've been alone for so long, but I watched so many of my friends get divorced after me and marry the wrong person because they were terrified to be alone. And they got themselves into really bad situations. It's like they just married the first thing that came into their life. And I wanted a relationship with myself, and I want it to be solid within myself. I'm not perfect. I always have more growing to do and more to learn about myself, and we're never going to be fully healed. This idea that you just only want to date or end up with a fully healed person, good luck, because it's not realistic and it doesn't exist. Everybody's a work in progress. But I stayed single and celibate for years, and it was really hard. It's funny, a couple of my friends said, Carrie, I think you need to start dating again. And I came across this article about angry vaginas. And I kid you not, it's really true. I do believe that we are meant to have encounters. But again, as free-spirited as I could be, I guess I'll use that word, I am really kind of conservative and conventional in certain areas, and then I can be unconventional in other ways. Like my career, I'm way more unconventional, but in terms of relationships and partnerships, and again, I'm not judging people who want to sleep around. Go do you. It's not my thing. It's not my jam. But I did stay single and celibate for years. And I focused on my career and, professional and personal development, raising my children. Devin was in travel soccer. So we were all over hell and back. And then, just everything, taking my kids to go see colleges, dancing school, dance recitals, school plays, whatever. I wanted to focus on being a mom. That was very important to me. And I didn't want to keep introducing my kids to one guy after the next. And the couple friends that didn't get married right away, they were doing that. And I was too. So I'm not judging, but I was looking at it, from the outside in and going, oh, shoot, I'm doing this too. This really is not healthy for your kids. And a lot of times I tried to hide it if I was going on a date or something, but girls are very perceptive and intuitive. And my kids would always catch on. Nothing was ever a secret. I don't know if I told this story already, but one day they broke into my phone and they found out that I was on online dating and redid my profile and then started swiping right on all these people that I would never remotely be interested in. Those little boogers. I was going to kick their butts. That was hilarious. And I'm glad we had that relationship. I don't even know how the heck they broke into my phone. They're like, you're so predictable, Mom. We know all your favorite numbers and combinations. And I was like, dang it. So now, I had to come up with something totally zany with my passcode on my phone and then hide it away somewhere because I could never remember it. They're little boogers, but I love them to pieces. But I think that's the problem. I think if you're sitting across from someone and they're extremely direct and upfront in what they want, I would embrace that. I wouldn't be so terrified or put off. It's not a person who's trying to, first of all, if you're scaring that person away, they're not your person. No one is going to be scared away from you if they're the right person for you. It's like all the men who've told me that I'm overwhelming or too intimidating or whatever. They're not my person. They're just not. I emote. I'm passionate. I'm expressive. That's not for everybody, number one. And number two, I think we forget that women are designed to emote. We are the emotional containers of relationships and of the family dynamic. That doesn't mean men don't have emotions, but we're designed to emote. And back in the yesteryears in indigenous cultures, and it still exists to some extent, men sought counsel, to the women leaders. They sought their wisdom. They sought their intuitive powers. That was a real thing. And so, I have things to work on. You always have to keep yourself in check to a certain extent. But I can't sit across from somebody and be like, no, I don't want commitment. No, I don't want monogamy. No, I don't want to be in a marriage. And what's happening is a lot of it has to do with how you were raised. So for instance, a man who had a mother, his mother only knows how to rescue women. He goes for the women who need help. They need to be rescued. That's how he feels needed. It's how he feels wanted. It's how he feels empowered. So he can't fathom that somebody would want him, just for who he is. And it's not about everything that he could give or do per se, where, he would normally attract the woman who really has a deep need for a man to rescue her. But he's also actively attracting that dynamic because that's the archetype, that's the role that he's adopted. And so we see a lot of that. And what happens is the woman thinks that's what she wants, and he thinks that's the dynamic he wants to be in. And then they both kind of feel duped, because at the end of the day, nobody really wants that, because it's disempowering for both people. So a lot of times the partners that we're attracting, it has a lot to do with what was role modeled for us and how we were raised. It's very common. And again, it's not a bad idea to talk about those things early on. That's important stuff. And then what do you value? And then our values change. They change. Of course they change. I don't value the things now that I did when I was in my 20s and 30s, when I was a little bit more, I was honestly, like, I'm not just saying this is not me like blowing myself up here, but I was never inherently a superficial person. It's just not in me. But I was definitely more superficial in my 20s. And so, there's so much more that I value because I value myself more. That makes sense. That's maturity and growth. But I think this is what's happening in the dating world, is that so many people are functioning superficially, and so many people are using manipulation. Oftentimes, you were never raised, you never learned how to communicate your emotions properly. And so you use manipulation, and I've been guilty of this. So I'll say we use manipulation as a tactic to get our needs met, because we don't know how to ask, and we don't know how to communicate. This is very, very common in relationships and dynamics as well. So I'd be so curious to hear what you think, because I think sometimes people think that a person like me, who might be a little bit more upfront and direct, is being demanding. And I'm not being demanding. I'm being really honest. I'm being extremely transparent. I don't want there to be a misunderstanding of what I'm looking for or what my needs are. And by the way, this whole idea that you shouldn't be telling people what your needs are, like we shouldn't have needs. We're human beings. We all have needs. And everyone in a relationship, you have a right to have your needs met. And you have to be really honest with yourself. If the person sitting across from you is able to meet your needs, and if they're not, then you have a big decision to make. Or you discuss it, and hopefully that person says, I'm going to do better. I'm really going to make a valiant effort to meet your needs. We all have needs, and there's always going to be expectations, realistic expectations. Like, I expect respect. I expect there to be mutual respect. I expect there to be honesty. To go into a relationship and say, I don't expect anything from you is a recipe for disaster. It's almost like giving that person permission to do whatever they want. And that's not reality. I'm more than sure you want to be in a relationship with a certain set of standards and boundaries and values and morals and ethics. That's really healthy. And so attached to all of that is a little bit of expectation. Like, I expect to be treated well. I expect for you to be honest and faithful. It might not happen, but that is a bit of an expectation. I think that's completely normal and healthy. But I would love to hear what you think, because this is such a big point of contention. I hear this from men, I hear this from women, and it's seemingly so difficult to meet someone. And I think it's because not everybody, a lot of people are kind of like Oz, standing behind a curtain, deathly afraid to be authentic, to be real, to be upfront, to be direct. And we really need to get back to that and be extremely honest with ourselves so we can be honest with another. And that's how we're going to get back to healthy relationships and hopefully improve the dating scene a little bit. I hope. We'll see. Good luck to us. All right, y'all. Have a great day.